Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Memory and Movement, a conversation between A4's 2021 Jadine Wong Fellow Annie Heath and artist Shannon Brooks. They're going to be discussing their collaboration on Annie's latest work entitled Departure Study of Motherland Fabric and share an excerpt from the piece. So just a quick accessibility check. I am a Hapa, half Korean, half white woman with long, straight, dark hair, wearing a black turtleneck sweater with my dog in the background, zooming in from the unceded lands of the Munsee Lenape peoples. And thank you so much for joining us tonight to explore the work and the process of these very talented artists. For those of you who are familiar with A4, you know that we're dedicated to ensuring greater representation and equity and opportunities for Asian American artists and cultural organizations. And the Jadine Wong Fellowship is one of our long-standing programs that provides resources and opportunities to foster the development of AAPI creators. Before we start and diving right into the conversation, I would like to make a couple of quick announcements. We are recording tonight's event and we're going to post it later on our YouTube channel. And we invite you to ask any questions that you might have for Annie or Shannon via the chat or the Q&A function, and they'll respond to your questions after the discussion. And you can just use the chat to say hi and introduce yourself. Let us know that you're here, where you're zooming in from. Okay, a couple quick announcements. On Tuesday, February 1st, we're going to open the application process for the 2022 Jadine Wong Fellowship for Dance, as well as the Van Leer Fellowship for Visual Art. So both of these fellowships award an unrestricted cash stipend of $6,000, career coaching services, an artistic mentor, and support for a project or a presentation of the artist choosing, as well as other resources. And we'll be sending an announcement by email. And we'll be posting the application on our website and social feeds. So please sign up for our website if you haven't already, or just go onto our website, check it out, follow us on social at aaartsalliance.org. Let people you know who might be interested in a fellowship, let them know about it. The deadline for both applications is March 20th, Sunday, March 20th. Also, we'll be very soon revealing the second in a series of Lunar New Year benefit shirts celebrating the Year of the Tiger. And this year's design is by Sungmin On Studio. And so you want to check those out. The t-shirts and hoodies are only available for a very limited time, but you can get a sneak peek before we announce it by clicking on the link in the chat. So order one today, wear your AAPI Tiger Pride and support A4 at the same time. Okay, I want to thank the New York Community Trust for endowing this fellowship and acknowledge our supporters at Capital One, Con Edison, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, in partnership with the New York City Council, the New York State Council on the Arts with the support of Governor Kathy Hochul, and the New York State Legislature, the National Endowment for the Arts, the Howard Gilman Foundation, Fiskars, the Rockefeller Brothers Foundation, the Tiger Foundation, and so many other generous individuals for making these conversations possible. And if you want to be among our list of supporters, you can text A4 donate to 202-858-1233, or just visit our website. That would be great. Okay, so I'm going to be sharing a digital land acknowledgement because we are not meeting in the A4 offices, which are on the unceded lands of the Munsee Lenape and Canarsie peoples. So I'm going to share this digital land acknowledgement written by Canadian theater artist Adrienne Wong. Since their activities are shared digitally to the internet, let's also take a moment to consider the legacy of colonization embedded in the technologies, structures, and ways of thinking we use every day. We're using equipment and high-speed internet not available in many Indigenous communities. Even the technologies that are central to much of the art that we make leave significant carbon footprints, contributing to changing climates that disproportionately affect Indigenous peoples worldwide. I invite you to join me in acknowledging all of this, as well as our shared responsibility to make good of this time, and for each of us to consider our roles in reconciliation, decolonization, and allyship. Now I will introduce Annie and Shannon with very brief bios. So Annie Heath is a choreographer and dancer based in Brooklyn. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Dance and Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, UMass Amherst. And her work has been presented in all sorts of venues, including New York Live Arts, Issue Project Room, New Dance Alliance, LaGuardia Performing Arts Center, Movement Research at the Judson Church, our friends Chen Dance Center, Center for Performance Research, and Dixon Place. And she's also been a resident artist recently at La Escuela Profesional de Danza de Mazatlan and New York Live Arts. Shannon Brooks is a multidisciplinary artist who facilitates and programs creative, collaborative experiences that practice radical accessibility. They are a recipient of an Art for Change grant from the Leeway Foundation and are founding member of Hook and Loop, an accessible collective and network led by disabled and chronically ill artists in Philadelphia. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Annie and Shannon. Take it away.
Hello. Hi, Shannon. Thank you,
Hello,
Lisa
Annie.
and A4 for this space and time. We're very excited to be here. And thank you all for tuning in. Shannon, do you want to give a brief intro to what we are about to see? We're just going to not breeze through. We're going to sit and enjoy a little bit of a performance excerpt from the digital premiere of Departure Study of Motherland Fabric that premiered a week or so ago, and it's available on YouTube until like the first week of February. So if you haven't seen it, please tune in. And then also that there are like excerpts. Shannon, sorry, you can speak. There are excerpts after this.
Yeah, they're excerpts from the performance that we filmed in New York earlier this January, and it includes some of the footage that we used in the projections for the performance. And it's in 3 sections because kind of in relationship to archives and memory, the memory of the frame rates of each different type of video file that we were using wasn't cooperating together. So it is in 3 parts, but you'll see different projections, archived material, and Annie's performance.
Relief. She must have been so relieved. He was relieved. I feel so relieved. We're back.
We're back.
So what I should have said before this, and I realized I was like, oh, some people might not come into this a little bit without knowing the work. So a brief general about the work is that, and kind of about myself, I am a Korean adoptee. I was adopted when I was like 5 months old. So I've lived in the US for most of my life, and have always just been lightly curious about my Korean heritage, and had never really felt compelled to explore it in an artistic way until within the past like 6 years or so. So this process was started from a different project that I was working on with a poet. It kind of branched into this project. At one point, it was kind of going into another solo project, but that one's on hold for now. So it's taken many various shapes and forms, and some crediting. So this project or this specific presentation features bojagi, which is a Korean textile sewing technique. And it holds like a utilitarian context in Korean history. And I kind of just became interested in it as a source of inspiration, like something very tangible and visible. And it felt like it was kind of correlating to my general process of taking little bits and pieces of things and trying to make something of it. So I collaborated with the visual designer Leonie Castellino, who is a fiber artist, and she created the 3 bojagi panels. And so we'll kind of talk about that a little bit, but like that is a part of this archival process. And then also not very much highlighted in these excerpts, but there's another whole textual component to this work, which is also part of the archive. So that is just like lightly what the work was working with. So primarily these excerpts you saw were mostly focused on the movement and the visual, but there are other components floating around in this world as well. But yeah, I guess we can start off with why Shannon are you here? And so so I brought Shannon to this conversation just to kind of bounce off ideas, and we have like a long standing history of just being friends and dancing together and working together. So yeah, I guess my question to you, Shannon, is what made you want to work on this project? And yeah, like what from our past do you feel like came in here?
Well, I'm very grateful to have worked on this project for what feels like over a year now. We've just been talking and meeting and chewing on all of these ideas, and I've been very grateful for it because it's been so dense. It's been dense, and it's been really interesting to support and stand with you and be with you while there's an investigation and a wading through a lot of information, and to be a part of that as your friend has been really wonderful, but also as an artistic creator myself. It's always nice to work on a work where you're like, okay, we're investigating together. And so that's what it felt like. And it's been fun. Like there's been so many drafts of all of so many different videos were made throughout this process. And yeah, and it's just been really nice to take videos. Unfortunately, it wasn't able to be seen by people in New York earlier this year because of a COVID surge, or the COVID surge we're still experiencing. But it was also great to blow it up into an installation, which is something I've never been really able to experiment in on such a large scale. And it worked. We didn't know it was going to work.
That is true. That's a whole nother part of it, was like going into this and planning for an in-person performance and then just completely having to shift gears like a week or two beforehand.
Yes, lots of
yeah, and I've just always appreciated, like, I think for this project and process, like it going through various drafts or it going through other types of projects, and then kind of circling back to this one. I feel like I had a lot of time to chew on this material, whether it's like my own journaling and writing, movement, various like audio files that are me just talking and mumbled. And then also being able to come to you with all these assets, but then also like all this like no information and not really knowing what to do with it. And being able to come with you like, or to come to you as like a trusted friend and someone who I feel like we've grown on, we've said like parallel tracks. Like we started out dancing together, we went to separate colleges, we studied different things, and then we found our way back to each other through like a shared medium and love. And I just like, I'm so appreciated that I had you to like entrust with all this information, and like being able to share, whether it's like the photo or like my physical adoption documents or rehearsal videos, and just handing them all over to you, very unfiltered, or not giving you bits and pieces that I only want you to see, like truly just giving you everything and not feeling like I have to hide certain parts of it, which I think was like a really nice way to work together.
Yeah, how did it feel to like, of course, whenever I make, in this process, I always wanted to like hit the nail on the head for you and make like, oh yes, this is exactly what I want. But I that's a real big risk to be like, make I don't know, abstract this and do something weird with it, and then
I
come
was like,
back
let
and
me give you this photo. So the photo is of it's
Mhm.
me and my like foster mother. So I was given up at birth. So I lived with this woman who took care of me until I was able to fly over to America. And so this is like the only photo that I have of when I was younger, or one of the only. And so I gave you this photo and I was like, well, I want to use this, but also like I don't want people to see it. Or like I want to use this text and these letters that I have with my birth mom, but I'm not going to give you all the information because you don't need to know all of it. And so like kind of figuring out ways to abstract our material, or to like not give it to people on a silver platter, but really allow people to feel that sense of like wanting to know more, or there's things that you're missing. There's
Mhm.
context that you can't have or that you can't fully understand. And
Mhm.
I feel like that was a huge part of like working with these materials.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, oh my gosh, I forgot that we have like videos of me rehearsing nude at one point. The videos we just showed you were in like baggy rehearsal clothes at Nyla, like one day deep in the pandemic.
But
But
it
it was
was
fun to kind of just source random parts of this process as well.
Mhm, mhm. And just to clarify, Annie will send me all these contents, whether they're images or screenshots or videos from rehearsals or like photo shoots, and I reworked them into videos, the toggle videos, which is what we called, which is the close-up, extreme close-up of these photographs that we're slowly toggling through, and then something that we call ghost images, which were these images of Annie at rehearsal that I just continued to like take out all of the background. But you were wearing the same color as where you were, which was very difficult. But we figured it out, and then we projected them onto the bojagi and onto the brick, and it worked great. And we had a lot of time to work in the brick because it was during that time of the year where Christmas between New Year's, and we were all in New York during a very intense time, and we just had this space to work in. And I think we would look at these pieces in the archive, and that feeling of like I don't know if I want to show everything. I think that's very interesting because with archives, there's a science to it. So there's like a library science to it, and a lot of times there's these documents and resources like tucked away in these museums or libraries, and I'm always just wondering like the relationship between like your experience of memory and your experience of time and your experience of experience versus like these strict documents. So I wonder how much you gain emotionally and tonally from abstracting the image. I know watching this time I was like, ooh, I really want to see the image like all zoomed out and in full, but you never get the full piece, and you just get a lot of digital noise.
I was supposed to send you that full image so you could add it at the very end of that. That's funny. I forgot about that.
We'll never know.
You'll never know what the full image is. It had a great wallpaper in the background.
Yes.
But yeah, I feel like too from it, like I've always known that these documents and things have existed, but have never spent so much time just like rereading, relooking through them all. And now it feels like it's almost like this pasted memory, but it's like this very like uh shaped and formed memory through this process. Like now I feel like I will only remember it through these projections. In some ways, which is interesting. And like and just thinking about even the rehearsal videos, like I can never just watch that rehearsal video. I will only just think of it in in this space where it is, what do we call it? Like refracted, or how when you project it onto the bojagi, because of its like luminescence, it like creates these multiple layers, which you can't really see in the video, unfortunately. Well, it was really cool in person, and it made us feel like it was like suspended time in a way. I haven't been to the Van Gogh exhibit, but in my head, it's like the Van Gogh exhibit. But I don't know if that's a perfect analogy there, because I haven't been.
Yeah, it was really like timeless almost. It was just suspended. Like the bojagis were suspended, and like these images were suspended, and you were dancing with them. And you know, we never tried this before, but the last video had the original, like the video we projected onto the wall on top of the video of Annie performing. And I'm always like amazed or like laugh out loud whenever it's like, looks like you guys are timed and timed perfectly together, dancing together. But I wrote down, you know, oh my, perfect timing on some of the ghosts and Annie dancing, or just like, it looks like it's choreographed. And I was thinking about archives, and I was thinking about your inner rhythm as a performer and a dancer. And I wonder how, and a mover and a person, like how that matches up. So like, if you get it on the right beat, like the movements happen at a very similar time. And yeah, and I think because it's an improvised score, you know, you have such a deep sense of your rhythm. And that's born from, yeah, it's just, yeah, lots of layers of training. And yeah.
Which was
Yeah.
part of like the scariest part, I think, in this whole process for the last year of like, I don't want to say this aloud, but I'll say it aloud. I did not really rehearse that much in the movement leading up to this. And I was kind of freaking out. I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I think I've done it all. Like or not that I've done it all, but I think I have it in my body. I don't want to choreograph something in a formal way. Like, I'm not looking to shape it or like pre-shape it before I even get into the space. And so I think, yeah, like learning to how to like trust the internal rhythm that is just so ingrained from like improvising the same score or the same like 5 positions and just moving between the positions. And yeah, like we've talked before how I feel like half of my warm up, or like, which is really my rehearsal, half of my warm up, half of my rehearsal is just trying to remove all of my like desires to want to control and to like choreograph and shape specific parts of it. And it's like trying to just strip it away from my mind, so then it can like really go into a more embodied and instinctual place.
Yeah, I think something magical happens with when you get to that place and you interact with these these materials from your past in this like abstracted way. So the videos of the picture and the ghosts of you dancing, the same dance you're dancing. But if you get to this like this space, this like improv space, whatever that is, where you like, I don't know, you're listening and it's on your skin. That's how it feels for me, at least. Something magical happens. I think maybe memory or some, it just reminds me of what you said earlier in this conversation, where you're not going to be able to think about this picture without thinking of that video, or it really like evolves and transforms and molds memory. It's like working with history and like kind of reworking it. And it's kind of it's fun to watch, and it's fun to witness, not just watch, but like actively witness. Yeah. Yeah. Annie, I have a question for you. Yes. You mentioned that you were like veering in, you were just, this project is something that's been circling the drain. A lot of things, like you kind of end up in working on this project, even if you veer into other areas or other solo projects. But do you see this project continuing? Or I remember in rehearsal, we were like, only after you have children, you'll just remake this project. Or yeah, like what do you see here? How do you feel like really
Yeah.
like, yeah, is it,
Hmm.
have you repeated the choreography enough, or are you going to chew on it more and more and more?
Hmm. I feel like I was pleasantly surprised by the digital outcome of the work. Like I really just wasn't expecting much because in my head, I was like, this has to be in person. And then I just caved and was like, okay, we have to wrap this up a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like it did re-energize my affinity
Mhm.
towards wanting to do it. But I do also think that like I would be really curious to see what happens if I let it sit and then come back to it from a different perspective. Or like even like we have just seen in showing like a digital version of the performance and then continuing to overlay some of the projections, how it becomes its own like new work. I think we were also talking like while we were in tech, oh, like we should just have this be a installation. Like this could just
Mhm.
be a 24-hour installation. What if we had like 10 more Bojagis? I don't know if Leonie can do that, but what if we had like 10 more Bojagis could really construct the space in very interesting and layered ways and almost make it this um more of this like experience that you just wander through and sit with. And I feel like I'm interested in working with the materials in that way. Like, I don't know, maybe it is a performance, but I feel like right now I'm kind of interested in seeing what other shape and form it can potentially take.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then
It
also,
was,
yeah, like who knows, maybe I'll change my mind on how I feel about this material after I have kids.
yeah, it would be, it, I'm sure it will evolve,
Yeah,
throughout your whole life.
because this is so
Yeah.
much like in my young mind of not experiencing birth. Like there have been sections of this rehearsal process where I'm like really trying to embody a birthing. And I never had to watch like a birthing video when I was younger, but I started watching them now, which is a crazy process. And after watching it, I was like, oh, I know nothing about giving birth. Like this is really just this thing in my head that I am like fantasizing and like making this fantastical embodied thing, and it's so different from what it probably actually is, and so I'm curious to see how it changes in that
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's exciting to know that you're like constantly like kind of adding to this memory, or this like, yeah, you'll certainly think of things differently later on in your life, and it'll be very interesting to um see if the choreography changes. Or yeah,
Yeah.
or I think it's interesting in the fact that like once you do, or if you do, or if as you grow older, you'll gain more experience, and it would inform any dancing or movement that you do. And it's interesting how this is a capsule of your interpretation of this of birthing now. And
It was a
yeah,
lot softer than what I imagined it is in real life. It's
yeah,
a lot more beautiful.
a lot more flexible, maybe. Yeah, yeah. There's such a, but also going back to the installation, or making um, different iterations of this piece. Um, it's such a different experience to watch the piece and to even travel through the projections. And I think it would be a wonderful experience to kind of digest your piece through an environment. Yeah, it would be in space. It'd be fun. And filming it really, we had to decide like, how are we going to show people this part, where a big part of the rehearsal process was talking through the space, and the producer, Anna, This is like, is that the name? Producer or technician, great collaborator. She mentioned the architecture of the space and the fact that while you're watching performance, you're able to really decide where you're looking, decide where you're witnessing and what you're connecting with. But with a film and video, you have to decide, how are people going to see this completely? So it was, I think it took the guts of 3 people who are very comfortable with improvising, to be like, okay, how, like, what is, because you got to trust your gut when you're making these big decisions. So yeah, I think
this was just one version of it.
I know, I can't believe putting the ghost on top of you dancing at the brick made a whole different piece. And so it can just keep building. And it's funny how it changes the original source material, or it's very interesting how the context.
Exporting the video.
Yeah, it was very difficult because everything was in different frame rates, but that's a whole different story. Yeah.
I mean, this was like a short little juicy chat, but also want to open it up for any Q&As if there are some. No pressure.
Kendall has a question. Kendall, do you want to pose it in either the Q&A, or do you want to just ask it in the chat? All right. Okay. Okay, go ahead, Kendall. In the meantime, I'm just going to ask really quick. Was this work typical of your past collaborations and working process? Is this how you two have worked together in the past?
We've worked on more like experimental, like group improvisation videos. Yeah, I mean, I feel like this was a completely new project, but I feel like we're always just working on strange little things. I came to Shannon in Philadelphia, and she has a space, and they were like, you can do whatever you want to it. So my friend Nikki and I just came and threw buckets of water in the space for like a whole weekend. And that was a random project that we worked on.
Yes. Yeah. I remember in Annie and I studied at the same dance studio while growing up. And my favorite day was like a Halloween or any other holiday, because they would let us make our own dances up. And so I feel like, we just always are chewing at making weird or just kind of like jumping in and throwing water buckets around, or bringing a mini DV camera that years ago I had stolen from my parents as a child, and bringing it into a rehearsal and just being like, we're making a 3-hour movie. It's a 3-hour rehearsal. We're not stopping recording. Like, everyone can hold the camera, and it's just this, and we'll put it to opera music. But yeah, it's just play. We play a lot. And I think that's very integral to improvising for me, is being open to play. And I remember dancing with you years ago. You invited me, and we made that film together where we're like, let's just bring the camera in. And you came up to me and said, you're so open. And that was after years, after all of college, because we were just rolling around on the floor doing contacts and stuff. And I just remember being like, oh, it was just like when we reconnected, if I could pin it down to a moment. Yes.
Kendall, are you able to ask your question now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Amazing. So my name is Nikki. I've been streaming from a different account. No, I just wanted to tell y'all. Thank you so much for giving me the chance to speak. I just wanted to say, or I wanted to ask actually something that's a little bit different than what the two of you have been touching on. I think the work that I've seen is so rich visually, and you know, it's incredibly fertile. I will say that, like, definitely my experience watching it in person versus through the video, I think is very interesting to see kind of the nuanced imagery, like everything being put to the forefront was really, I don't know, eye-opening for me. But I had a question specifically related to Annie, like your relationship to sound, and then Shannon also, like how what Annie picked maybe influenced you or what we saw today. Like I know it's kind of maybe minor, but it's so visually kind of poignant what was produced that I'm curious, I guess, about the sound aspect for both y'all.
Sound is usually my last everything or like my least bit of concern, and anyone who knows me knows that I listen to the same thing over and over again because I don't know how to find anything. But so the one track for the sound is just muffled recordings as I was walking, and I just distorted it and looped it. And then there's another track that wasn't featured by my friend Nan, who like created this amazing layered laugh track that's featured at the beginning of the work. And then the other one is just like this beautiful soundscape. And I feel like the point of all of it is that it creates this like space of timelessness, or it suspends that feeling of like moving forward. And for me, the work is all about going back. So trying to slow it down as much as possible was really important for me.
Fantastic. And we've got about 3 minutes left. Thank you, Jessica. I know you have to run. I want to ask really quickly, Annie, can you just, can you share any insight into your role as a J.D. Wong Fellow? Did it help you realize this project in any way, or did it help with your work in general? Maybe you just want to share some thoughts.
Absolutely. So I think, okay, so I first applied to the J.D. Wong the year prior. And so that was right around the time that I was really starting to dig into a lot of this material. And usually like any type of application that you're writing for funding is like the most painful thing that you're doing. But what I do think that really helped with this process, and then just further along into the fellowship, is that it really made me sit to think and clarify, like why me right now, why this project right now, like, and really just articulate it, which I think for a lot of dance makers is like the hardest thing to do, just because we are in like the ephemera and like the spaces of the unknown. So I think for me, just like beyond just the incredible like monetary support to create this project, but then also just having to sit and slow down and really think about like what it meant to me.
Great, thanks. I know we had one more, Benedict just had a quick question and wanted to know, Annie, how did you think about developing the text that you read this time?
So I, even like the week prior to pulling this work together, I had like twice as much text. So a lot of it for me is just paring it all down. Like what is the point of the work? Like I try to remind myself that this isn't the only work that I'm going to create, so we don't need to put everything into it. And so really trying to figure out, okay, like what is the meat and juice of this? And I have so much text from like, so most of the text is more of this fantasized text with my birth mother. But there was a lot of text that was more in the reality of like what's current and now. And I took all of it out just because it didn't serve the work. And so I think for me, the process of choosing it was just like the painful ripping off the band-aid, and like coming down to the wire with needing to put something together.
So I think we are at an end here. So I want to say thank you to you both. What's next? Tell us what's next, Annie, Shannon.
For me, I am going to take the year off from producing anything and just be in rehearsal and see what comes up.
Great.
I have some programs coming up and some projects in Philly and beyond. And me and Annie are going to dance in the woods this summer. That's one of our plans. Don't you forget. But thank you so much. I'm very grateful to Annie for inviting me into this project and for everyone here for also inviting me into this Zoom room. Very grateful to be talking with you all.
Thank you. Thank you both. We enjoyed it and look forward to seeing what's next. So take care, everybody. Have a great evening and stay connected. Let us know what you're up to. All right. Take care, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Good night.